Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Innovation Deciphered. Today I'm joined by Carl Bak of Jeremias UK, and a bit different from normal, we are talking about chimneys, and what we will learn is there's an awful lot that happened since Fred Dibner made all of those fantastic documentaries in the 80s and 90s around the technology of flues and chimneys and how they're helping in sustainability and in new power generation. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. Thank you. Hi Carl, and thanks for coming in today. Just so that all of our viewers have an idea of who you are and where you've come from, can you just give us a brief potted history?
Of course, my pleasure, Tim. Thanks ever so much for inviting me to do this today. Basically, I've started in this industry when I was 16 years old. I started on the old YTS scheme, and I was taken on by a local company who I knew certain people in the business, the directors mainly, and I was given an opportunity to start at the very, very, very bottom. So I've seen this change many, many years in many companies coming and going, but from my own perspective, it's given me a good life experience in this industry.
That's great. Currently, you are Commercial Director of Jeremias.
Correct.
Which is all things to do with chimneys and flues. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, of course, everyone's familiar with chimneys, but of course, a bit's happened, hasn't it, since the start of the Industrial Revolution?
It has.
And obviously, everyone's familiar with them. And if you're of my sort of age, you'd have been brought up watching documentaries about Fred Dibner knocking down brick-built ones used by hand. But of course, you're not into brick-built chimneys. No.
They're either mild steel, stainless steel, same difference. You've still got to climb up them and climb back down and still demolish them.
But let's just start talking about some of the applications that because these are innovative. They certainly aren't anything that Fred Dibner would recognise. No. And I know from my previous corporate career, a decade or so ago, there was a huge boom in the development of energy from waste plants. Yeah. And obviously this is typically burning waste material, either domestic or industrial. And one of the big problems in terms of planning consent and big political worries was what's coming out of the chimney. So Carl, can you just give me and the viewers a bit of an insight into how the flue in the chimney overcomes those problems?
Yeah, well basically this type of application, the chimneys are such a height, they range from 70 to 100 metres, and I think 110's been done before. So we're at not the tail end of getting involved, but recently we've won 2 large contracts, one at 88 metres and one at 98 metres. So we are now looking at this and reviewing the designs because it needs that skill and attention due to the height and due to the deflection at the top. And it's very important we get that right for obvious reasons. So it's a very good industry. There's still a few projects going off that need this type of application, and we are well into being heavily involved with certain contracts in the country and abroad, which is for our business very, very important.
Because I remember that the issues with a lot of the concerns politically, and obviously the local stakeholders, were that when you burn domestic waste, obviously most of it goes up in smoke. Some of the smoke's not very nice.
No.
And what's left over, the ash that's left over, is pretty toxic.
Yeah.
So how does the chimney affect both of those two things?
Well, it's at a certain height for obvious reasons to try and reduce the actual fallout over a certain distance to local areas, higher buildings or the structures. So we have to design it that height. Normally, this has already been predetermined at the planning stage, because it's not for us to determine that. The planners, the local environmental officers are heavily involved to determine what's coming out the top of that chimney is not too toxic based on the burn rate of the units. So it's very important, the chimney height on these installations.
Yes, because I mean most of those projects, from my memory, there was an output specification that whoever was designing and building this plant, you said you get a truckload of waste comes in, and you're allowed to have a tiny packet of horrible ash go to very deep landfill.
Yeah.
And there was some, obviously, the impact you can have on the local air quality was also determined to a very, very...
Yeah, but the thing for us is that is normally decided by the appliance people who are actually providing the actual unit to burn the equipment, and then we've got to make sure that diameter is correct, the e-flux is correct, and the deflection, and it'll stand up at that height.
Just tell me what's e-flux.
It's a speed of gas, so you have to discharge at a certain rate to ensure there's no downwash based on the chimney height, because you need that to discharge vertically and not just fall out the top. So it's very important to get that right based on the requirements.
I guess it's to do with
diameter at the top.
And the height?
Yep, it could be reduced, it could be whatever, it could be bigger, it just depends on what the requirements are.
Are they always the same diameter at the top as they are at the bottom?
No, sometimes depending on the structural load, the base might be a 2 metre chimney, and then it might reduce over its height to 1500, depending on the specification of the e-flux and what the client wants to see.
That's really interesting. So the other thing I remember from my youth is and I'm going back 40 years, was the fact that obviously the chimneys deflect, don't they? It's the vortex shedding.
Yeah.
And you used to get those
helical straights
to try and break them up.
Yeah. It still happens in design, depends on what the requirements are, but nowadays, depending on the requirements of the design code, you'd be looking at a liquid mass tuned damper, which is filled with antifreeze, so once it deflects, it just passes between the chambers and it reduces the actual loading onto the concrete base.
So it just literally slows down.
Yeah, it slows it down, so there's just the weight of it at the top.
Yeah, I've experienced something like that recently, because just last summer we went to, family went to Mexico City, because lots of the towns there have got mass damping in them, because obviously it's a very highly seismic area. Similar, same technology for a different application.
Yeah, obviously there is installations where you have a seismic calculation because of, it might be a power station, it might be a new Dungeness or whatever the case may be, that type of requirement.
So just for my benefit then, I'm referring back to the Fred Dibner, because most people in this country, that's all they know about chimneys, is what Fred Dibner taught everybody. And of course you used to see him shimming up the side of a brick built, huge structures they were, weren't they? And you used to see these hair-raising pictures of little scaffold at the top. I mean, presumably these chimneys need maintenance, they need to be inspected. If it's moving about like that, I can imagine you've got fatigue.
I mean, some of the brick chimneys are still being used and repointed just to make sure they're still safe. But the same with the steel chimney, you've still got to inspect it. You've still got to make sure the paint's in order, the bolts are tightened based on yearly inspection, because what you don't want is for corrosion and have holes in the actual shell. And then you can actually design a chimney and make it thicker to give you better corrosion resistance over the years.
So there's a bit more there to corrode.
Yeah, you've got an ultrasound test and things like that.
Is there any instrumentation ever put on them now?
Yeah. A lot of the MCDP is coming into effect. A lot more emissions requirements and seeing how the boiler's operating, or the generator or the CHP. Mega important. More work, more platforms, more access. So it's just getting the clients to understand that you might have to pay for this, and understanding that if you don't want to pay for it, it's the easiest way of access, maybe a MOOPS to get to them. So it's just getting that across to clients that if you don't fit it now, you can have problems in the future.
Yeah, there's obviously, it's invest now and save money in the future.
Yeah, exactly, and it's different for regulations for different countries. In Germany, every chimney has to go out with a platform and ladder. In the UK, if they can't afford it, they tend not to put it on.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's literally back to the ladders.
Back to the ladders, through the bosses, ladder hooks, and safely getting up down that chimney stack.
Yeah. So we talked about energy from waste. I mean, other new applications, hydrogen generation.
Yeah, it's coming to effect. There's a lot of appliance manufacturers looking at whether the boilers are going to be hydrogen ready, and still need a chimney. It's just got to be check the volumes, make sure that future-proofing it, basically, if it's going to be a hydrogen future or it's going to stay as gas. If it's hydrogen, we check it out and say yes, the diameter's fine, it can stay at that. So that's what's happening with hydrogen at the minute.
Because that hydrogen generation, presumably, is that from methane or something?
Yeah, it's I don't know the exact science of how it's operating, how they're doing it, but end of the day, the hydrogen thing is coming on track, and a lot of electric boilers as well.
And of course, the other way that energy is being generated is biomass boilers.
Yeah.
Which is presumably when you're burning, was it wood chip pellets?
Yeah, wood chip pellets. I've seen that come and go more times. RHI giving subsidies for the people on the appliances that side. But will it come back again? There's still some big plants. They're still making a lot of biomass systems. Again, needs a certain height due to the fallout of the clean energy at the top, the ash. So we've got to be very careful of termination heights based on surrounding buildings.
I presume though with that the ash coming out the top is soot.
Yes.
Which isn't quite as bad.
No, it's not as bad, no, but
okay.
It's that clean energy.
Clean energy, which is not quite as clean when you get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, that's why you get the terminators are very black.
Yeah. Of course, the other in construction now, one of the big new things that's coming in the last 10 years is data centres.
Yes.
And of course, they're an interesting.
What a market! I mean,
point, aren't they?
I've been involved with Chimneys a lot of years, and what I'm seeing in this sector is incredible. The boom is just amazing, and for securing our future, there's a lot of business in that area, and we are hanging on to that like no tomorrow, because it's good. It's nice work. It's big work, and it's a good design. It's some good designs, and that's what.
And for the benefit of our viewers, the reason you need a chimney with a data centre is for the emergency power backup.
Correct. Because it's mega important. We all understand that there's billions and billions of pounds going through these data centres every day. Right. Every minute, every day.
They consume a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And they have to be cooled as well. And you've got to keep your security systems going.
Exactly. So for us, we provide the right chimneys at the right height, the right specification, because you can use different systems on different types of engines. You can have a twin wall chimney, or you can have a large 3mm thick steel one. So it's getting the right application for the client, for cost, and
these would be chimneys which are only used occasionally.
Yeah.
If there's a power outage, or presumably you run these things up to test them, don't you?
You have monthly tests, or 4-hour tests, whatever the client agrees with the engine supplier. But yeah, it's really, really amazing what I'm seeing in that sector. And for us, we are banging on that drum and being very, very active across England and Europe. Right.
So, but I suppose in the sense that, that is because there's a power plant, really.
Yeah.
The data centre has a power plant associated with it, which is emergency power, I guess, most of the time. Okay, now, the other thing I'd be interested to explore, we have spoken once or twice about Fred Dibner, because he worked on masonry chimneys, of which there are some still about and some which are still being used.
Yeah.
But am I right in thinking that some of those, where we say they're being reused now?
Correct, yeah. We line a lot of chimneys. I've lined thousands and thousands of chimneys that are in the middle of a building, separate to the actual building, schools, hospitals, everything, because we don't knock it down because of the cost. So we look at ways we can reuse it and making sure it's safe.
And then, I suppose that's another contribution to sustainability.
Absolutely, because these stacks, you know, some are tall, some are small, some are wide, some are short. So it's just getting the right chimney to line, because there's innovative ways of lining the stack with a liner or a Framflex liner. So there's different types you can use, and it's a big market.
You've got to fit the right one to the right situation.
Correct.
Well, Carl, that's been a fascinating
I appreciate it.
run around the whole chimney market
Yeah.
and the innovations in flue and chimney design. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for everyone for
Thanks
watching.
everybody, appreciate that.
And see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Tim.